プロジェクトバードライオン
Hello, and a bird bath, June 13th, 2021. A day that I was personally looking most forward to during this year's E3 press conference information events streaming live on the Interplace.
What would we
See this year? More news on Final Fantasy XVI, an HD 2D voxel edition of Final Fantasy VI. Of course, Square did tell us in advance that we would be seeing Eidos Montreal's new game, which was heavily rumored to be Guardians of the Galaxy as far back as 2017. And I've been watching these events long enough to know better than to set my expectations too high. But we did just see the Dragon Quest III remaster, and why wouldn't they give the same treatment to their other seminal franchise also known as Final Fantasy? Probably a dumb question, because why does Square Enix lot of things do? I'm looking at you, The Quiet Man and Balan Wonderworld presented by Yuji Naka. Among the rumors this year, there was one I was deeply interested in. A new Final Fantasy game in the vein of Dark Souls, and published by Team Ninja, potentially offering a reimagining of the OG Final Fantasy for the Famicom/NES. The freeform aspects of the first Final Fantasy game combined with the mechanics and sensibilities of a Souls-like title sounded like a perfect match. Well, as luck would have it, we did get to see the reveal trailer for Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. The bad news is, we got to see the reveal trailer for Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. I had just finished a 2-week quarantine after a member of my work carpool had received a COVID, and during the time of my self-isolation, I had been ordering a lot of food delivery. It was during this event that I noticed the latest limited-time menu item at McDonald's restaurants worldwide, the BTS Meal. The BTS Meal, of course, being a cross-promotion for the South Korean boy band sensation, known also as BTS. Included within the BTS Meal is 10-piece chicken McNuggets, fries, and a drink. To those in the know, you might recognize this also as a 10-piece chicken McNuggets meal. With the BTS Meal, McDonald's also introduced us to 2 brand new and potentially savory sauces, sweet chili sauce and Cajun sauce. Also included with the BTS Meal, nugget box and cup featuring the BTS branding. Many people sold these rare sauces online for the price of exuberance. Coming off the back end of a deep dive into Life is Strange: True Colors, a game in which having empathy is a superpower and not a basic personality trait, the Stranger of Paradise teaser begins much like Kingdom Hearts often does, featuring a plethora of ominous words and rhetorical questions. And then,
I only know one thing. I want to kill chaos.
We cut to a character that looks very much like the Derplander of Final Fantasy XIV fame, exclaiming his disdain for chaos, which, if you didn't know, isn't the name of an East Indian thrash band for musical performance, but the main antagonist of Final Fantasy I, a time-hopping entity that is sent from the past by Garland to defeat the Warriors of Light, which would allow him to live forever. Throughout this presentation, we are consistently barraged by the mention of chaos and the protagonist's desire to find and defeat it, much to the amusement of everyone watching, eyes wide and sweaty hands clasped, awaiting the next big E3 meme to join the ranks of giant enemy crabs and casually observing the bottom of an Xbox avatar's shoe. Honestly speaking, the trailer is terrible, especially coming from Square Enix, who, if nothing else, is often known for their big reveals. I watched the trailer a few times after conclusion of event, and did pick up on some gameplay elements that seemed reasonably cool. Another thing revealed at the Square Enix event was the fact that a playable demo would be released very soon. Very soon, as in within the next hour. I downloaded the demo immediately and updated my stream info, eager to experience whatever the hell kind of hot mess this was going to be. Counting down the seconds until I could play, I tried to launch the demo. It was around this time I had just finished the approximately 13th The BTS Meal of the week and was beginning to experience mild dysphoria, presumably caused by my ingesting of the BTS Meal, which ironically by this point I had already switched back to sweet and sour sauce and ditched the Cajun sauce and sweet chili sauce entirely. Perhaps this was an omen of what was to come. As history tells, the demo would not launch on this day, or even the following day for that matter. At first, I had figured maybe something happened during the download process, as I deleted the corrupt file to try again. Of course, it was nothing to do with my download specifically, but Square Enix had released a spaghetti code mess that would not launch on anyone's PlayStation 5, let alone my own.
バードトラックス
It's time for Bird Tracks. Battle versus Liz and Ard from the Wild Arms Rocking Heart Arrange album and composed by Nao Tokisawa. Originally from Wild Arms 2, this is a great arrangement of the iconic boss battle theme with chunky guitar riffs and just a hint of electronic. Unfortunately, it pretty much fully ditches the 13-string koto from the original version of the song for some kind of synthesized flute, and does slightly change the tone from comedic to something more badass as a result. In exchange, it does add some cool Middle Eastern-inspired backup vocals at certain parts of the track that were absent in the original. Love this version of the song. Check out the Wild Arms Rocking Heart soundtrack in general. It has a lot of great remixes if you're into the series. Gentlemen don't like violence, but love the violence of words. Prepare for word torture. I'm full of dangerous phrases that should be censored. Several of many days later, I was finally able to update and launch Stranger of Paradise on my PlayStation 5 computer entertainment system. It had been a rocky start, but as the BTS meals inside of my digestive system began to evacuate my body like a demonic entity following an exorcism, my hope had been mildly reinvigorated. I sat on the title screen for a while, listening to the excellent and moody rendition of the Final Fantasy Crystal Prelude, and after I hit the loop, I configured my settings and started out on normal difficulty. The tutorial area of the demo is a field of wheat, ripped directly from Final Fantasy X, and gives us a brief overview of the various mechanics you have access to during the gameplay. The controls are surprisingly tight, and hits impact, so feel strong. The main character, Jack, screams a lot sometimes when claiming the life of his many foes. I wonder why he did that. After tutorial occurs, you begin in the Shrine of Chaos. The gameplay is very much similar to Neo in a lot of respects. It's much faster and less methodical than a Souls game, but the overall gameplay structure and trappings unique to this genre are still there and largely recognizable. A majority of the enemies you encounter are accurate to this location in the original game. Goblins, wargs, skeletons, and bats. You have regular attacks, special skills, dodge, guard, a special parry function, and something known as Lightbringer mode. In this mode, it is easier to break the defense of your enemies, and regenerates your stamina, which is only expended while guarding or parrying for the most part. You also gain a form of super armor, where you won't be interrupted out of your attacks, but still take full damage from them. Advancing through the Chaos Shrine, you'll also bump into enemies that use purple attack names, and ones that have red attack names. Purple attacks can be parried, and by doing this, you'll gain a finite amount of enemy skills to use. These enemy skills are ones that Bartz uses in Final Fantasy V, specifically while using the Blue Mage position. To understand The Stranger of Paradise, you must understand its creative producer and also character designer, Tetsuya Nomura. Nomura-san was originally born in Kingston, Jamaica, however currently resides in his city of Japan, at an open-concept loft attached to the side of Square Enix headquarters. During his formative years working for Vogue Japan, he often cited his inspiration behind the creation of many beloved video games caricatures as the Blue Mountains surrounding his hometown of Kingston and picking coffee beans from the local waterfalls. When Nomura, as a human child, moved to Japan at a young age, he discovered a gently loved belt left behind on the plane seat. With this belt in hand, he knew just what he had to do, and has often credited the event with the initial design of main character Bart's Clouser from Final Fantasy V. The rest is history, and Hirohito Narukawa hired Nomura-san once again to create the iconic asymmetrical v-neck and black leather pants that you see Jack wearing in Stranger of Paradise, the Final Fantasy origin. Speaking of red attack names, generally speaking, they cannot be blocked, and the best solution is to just avoid them entirely. Grabs, knockdowns, and big hits seem to all fall into this category. Other than that, however, at least in this current demo and beta of the game, you can parry almost every single attack. The frame windows are pretty generous, but you will expend stamina while using this. By the time you're fighting the boss of the demo, you'll want to have a decent grasp of each of these mechanics. That is, unless you just chain spell with the Black Mage. You can either dispatch enemies by draining their HP, or you may deplete their guard meter, which triggers a button prompt in which you instantly finish off the enemy by turning them into red crystals and then shattering them, much like my hopes for a Final Fantasy VI HD 2D remake featuring 4K voxels. Finishing the enemies off this way is useful for another reason, however, as it will return to you a portion of your MP meter, as well as temporarily extending the amount of MP segments you have available to you. These extra bars return to the default once you die, however, so it's not necessarily worth intentionally farming for this resource. The caster and Black Mage are still adept fighters, even using physical attacks, so you can quickly build up enough MP to do whatever you need to do, provided you take advantage of the mechanics.
おつエビアン
Thanks to your stupid work, here's some avian wisdom. Lightning from the Final Fantasy XIII saga, also known as Claire Farron, is all about saving her sister Sarah, defying fate, punching Snow in the face, and eventually becoming the savior tasked by Bunavelza to save the souls of humankind before the world ends. She also has sweet hair, over 90 different outfits in total, and because it was 2009, a belly button piercing. She originally had blonde hair in concept art and often comes across as cold and detached. She is represented by the Eidolon Odin, who can turn into a horse for some reason, and also seems to carry a lot of cherry blossoms around with her, as anytime she uses some sort of special attack, they're constantly flying around the screen. Lightning has the distinction of being used for real-life, high-fashion brand Louis Vuitton's now famous advertising campaign featuring her as the headlining model. While the game does definitely seem much easier than the average Souls Hero-born title, it still demands your attention and strikes a pretty good balance of risk-reward. One really important difference here is the inclusion of the job system that allows you to change your character's class and learn a wide variety of skills and passive abilities to inherit between swaps. In addition to this, much like Neo, you'll acquire a wide variety of colored loot from enemy drops as well as treasure chests. This gear has some degree of randomization to its passive traits and can be found at various levels of power. Some items also include a job-specific stat scaling, but so far at least seem really unnecessary outside of min-maxing. One great thing about the gear is that it transforms your asymmetrical Henley-wearing main character, Jeeg, into something more befitting of a Final Fantasy hero like Bart's Clouser. Speaking of visuals, I had recently played Dirge of Cerberus, so maybe my perspective was skewed, but the visuals in Stranger of Paradise are extremely weird. The characters themselves are detailed enough, but Team Ninja, for whatever reason, decided that they needed to jack up the contrast by 175%, and the environments feel really dark and shiny as a result. While I disagree with the sentiment that it looks like a PS3 game, you most certainly won't be showing this off to your best friend's mom on her new 8K television. In fact, it might very well be one of the worst looking games I've seen in the past several years. For reference, that means more than 2, but not many as defined by several dictionaries. The resolution seems to be a hot sub 1080p, and yet despite this, the frame rate is also extremely unstable. I encountered all sorts of weird visual hiccups, including polygon tearing and pixel drafting. This is just a demo, of course, and I'm willing to give Team Ninja the benefit of the doubt, especially given the track record of Nioh 1 and 2, which drastically improved almost everything in between beta tests and full release. Stranger of Paradise even includes a feedback form upon completion of the demo, which I can only assume will be taken into consideration before the game release. I linked them to my Uber Eats order to track the progress of my Chicken McNuggets meal. The strongest point of the demo is without a doubt the fight with Chaos, aka Garland, aka the guy who looks like a Final Fantasy character because he is. The first time I fought him, I used the warrior class, and it taught me better how the game's mechanics are supposed to be utilized. If you are even skilled enough, you may parry every single attack he throws at you and avoid taking any damage whatsoever. By playing back and forth with the aggression, defense, as well as the clever Lightbringer mechanic, you will soon learn that you can trigger Lightbringer once your guard stamina is close to depletion, which refills it for you and allows you to keep on the offensive and to take minimal damage. Of course, you can also just play as the Black Mage and cast Firaga at Chaos repeatedly, allowing your teammates to absorb the brunt of the damage and finish him off with little effort. Although the Black Mage I don't feel is necessarily broken, you can definitely exploit its power in many situations. On the subject of teammates, they're largely useless and exist solely as targets for the enemy to look at that do not happen to be you, which is probably a good thing, as in games like Code Vein, your AI crew of anime waifus were exponentially stronger and made the game much easier as a result. I guess it's nice for newcomers to this gameplay style to feel like they don't have to go at it alone. Maybe this will turn into a multiplayer feature, who knows. As it stands at this point in time, Stranger of Final Origin Paradise Fantasy is a curiosity that I feel most people are going to sleep on as a result of its very lackluster E3 showing. The core combat system and mechanics are a lot of fun, and the classic job system is in full effect. I played through the demo several more times on hard mode following my initial playthrough, and maxed out all 3 available jobs, including Warrior, Black Mage, and Dragoon. The fight with Chaos changed slightly on this difficulty, and the demand to properly learn the mechanics only increased. Only time will tell how the final game will be received by fans, but I do, however, know one thing for certain. I must defeat Chaos? Cheers, Nomura-san. See you next episode. Matane!
Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video if you made it this far. As you can probably tell, I have been upgrading some of my equipment and playing around with the format of the videos. I appreciate all of the support, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot of new stuff I want to share here on the channel. Bye!